Good morning, children. This is our second part of the chapter Development from Economics for class 10th. So, in the first part, we have discussed a little bit of the development and what is all about it, and how the development goals are different from person to person. We have talked about it with the help of table. Now, the quick revision that what we have explained in the first video, that development, what is all about, it is an idea and it used to be varies from person to person. It means the individual development goals are always different from the another person, just because of their different educational background, different you can say different skill and their knowledge. Now the next is national development. As you know, the countries or the nation development directly depend on its people growth, skill and knowledge and prosperity. So as different person have different development goals, in the same way they are having sometimes similarity and sometimes their ideas conflict with each other for the nation development also. Okay, as we are different in our approaches, in our thinking, in our mindset, we give the priority in our life to the different and the certain things. And above then, we know that money is most important resource, or you can say it is a criteria to count everybody's development as well as the country's development also. So money is the ultimate resource. So the criteria to count the countries in terms of developed, developing and underdeveloped depends on its economic growth, or you can say in other words per capita income. What is per capita income? That when we divide the average income of the nation by its total population, then we generally get an idea that how much people are earning per person earning in a nation. So we count it as its growth, as the economic growth of a nation, and then we give them as a rich country, poor country or developing country. Okay, so this is all about which we discussed in the first video. Now the second thing I want to explain you the further chapter, that national development. It is very important to keep in mind that different persons could have different as well as conflicting notions of a country development. Yes, however, can all these ideas be considered equally important? Now if we are talking about that every single citizen is having different approach and different aspiration for the country's development, so what we have to do we have listen every single citizen's opinion and his or her thoughts that what we should do to develop the nation? No, it is not like so. But as far as the democratic nation, we are having so many power that we can ultimately have the platform to discuss these issue very freely, and we are free to share our expression and idea. Or if there are conflicts, how does one decide what would be a fair and just path for all? We all have to think whether there is a better way of doing things. Yes, there is a need that we have to come up with a particular solution where every section of the society get the equally benefit and equally treated, because we are the you can say we are the citizen of a democratic nation. Now, would the idea benefit a large number of people or only a small group? Yeah, this is the government, you can say, responsibility in a democratic nation, that before passing any law or any, you can say, in a form of law or in any policy, they have to keep in mind that it should be favorable for every single citizen of the India or any developing nation or democratic nation. It shouldn't be biased, that it shouldn't be in the favor of only particular set of the people. Only then we can set the rule that where we are giving the equal freedom, equal treatment to the people. As in the starting of the chapter we have discussed about that more than money, we need the equal treatment, freedom, justice in the nation. This is also very valuable, you can say, development goal of anybody's life. Now next is how to compare different countries or states. Now as we have given the criteria money or economic growth, when we are categorizing them developed, underdeveloped and developing nation, so what are the procedure? So we can understand it with a very easy example, that how we compare different students. They are different in their height, health, talents, interest. Some are the healthiest student, may they are not be the studious one. The most intelligent student may not be the friendliest one. So how do we compare student? Okay, the criterion we may use depends on the purpose of the comparison. Yes, it depends on the purpose, that for what purpose we are selecting them or we are categorizing them. If we want the different criteria to choose a sports team, then definitely we will take the healthiest and tallest students of the class. If we are taking them for a debate team, then we need the good memory and the laborious student who are enthusiastic and who do not have fear to deal with the public. Then music team, then their voice should be soothing, and okay, there is no need of any physical strength, or a team to organize a picnic. So they are the different tasks or criteria to categorize a student on their skill and their knowledge. Now still, if for some purpose we have to choose the criterion for the all round progress of children in the class, how shall we do it? So it is the example that how we compare the student for different purposes. Okay, or you can say different criteria to get the best one. Now usually we take one or more important characteristic of persons and compare them based on these characteristics. Of course, there can be differences about what are important characteristics that should form the basis of the comparison. Okay, friendliness and spirit of cooperation, creativity or marks secured. All these things are very essential for a growing student or a growing personality. Why should we always say student, student, student? It is the thing which is necessary for every single individual growth, overall growth. It doesn't mean that only we can say the student. No, we as a human being, we all need to develop our creativity, to develop our friendliness, and to develop our knowledge. So it is not only that we all the time point out the students, we also included in them. Now this is true of development too. For comparing countries, their income is considered to be one of the most important attributes. So in the same way, when we compare the countries which are poor, which are underdeveloped, which are wealthier, which are developed already, which are developing, depends on its economic background. Countries with higher income are more developed, okay, than the other with less income. This is based on the understanding that more income means more of all things that human beings need. We know that money is essential. We can get anything, materialistic wealth. Definitely, good school, good college, good university will take from you the higher amount of fees. But again, that if you are not hard worker, if you are not sincere, then again no college, no brand give you the progress and the success in your life, because we have the several and thousands of examples. The students who belong to the remote area, they have achieved a remarkable position in their life just because of their hard work. So there is no substitute of hard work. Okay, whatever people like and should have, they will be able to get with the greater amount of income. So greater income itself considered to be one of the important goal. That's why everybody is having the goal to get the good income in their lives, because they know all the materialistic wealth and the happiness they can get from the money. Now what is the income of a country? Intuitively, the income of the country is the income of the all residents of the country. This gives us the total income of the country. However, for comparison between countries, total income is not such an useful measure. Since countries have different populations, comparing total income will not tell us what an average person is likely to earn. Are people in one country better off than others in a different country? Hence, we compare the average income, which is the total income of the country, divided by its population. The average income is also called per capita income. So in this way, when we divide the total income of a nation, okay, with its total population, we get the per capita income. Now, in World Development Reports brought out by the World Bank, this criterion is used to classify countries. Countries with per capita income classifying the countries with per capita income of US 1,02,736 per annum and above in 2013 are called rich country, and those with the per capita income of US dollar 1045 or less are called low income countries. India comes in this category of low middle income countries because its per capita income in 2013 was just US dollar 1570 per annum. The rich countries, excluding countries of Middle East and certain other small countries, are generally called the developed countries. So these are the way by which we compare the countries on the basis of their economic growth. Okay. Now further we talk about income and other criteria. When we looked at individual aspiration and goals, we found that people not only think of better income but also have goals such as security, respect for others, equal treatment, freedom, etc. As I told you, in mind. Similarly, when we think of a nation or a region, we may, besides average income, think of other quality important attributes also. Okay, other equally important attributes also. What could these attributes be? Let us examine this through an example of 1.3 gives the per capita income of Maharashtra, Kerala and Bihar. Actually, these figures are of per capita net state domestic product at current prices for 2013 to 14. Let us ignore what this complicated term exactly means. Roughly, we can take it to be per capita income of the state. We find that of the three, Maharashtra has the highest per capita income and Bihar is at the bottom. This means that on an average, a person in Maharashtra earned so in 1 year, whereas on the average, a person in Bihar earned only around this. So you can compare the digit that in Bihar it is so less. If per capita income were to be used as a measure of development, Maharashtra will be considered the most developed and Bihar the least developed state of the three. Now let us look at the certain other data pertaining to these states given in table 1.4. So these are the tables where Maharashtra, Kerala and Bihar, you can see that how their infant mortality rate is in which category. Now their literacy rate is also highest in Maharashtra, then the infant mortality rate is less, okay, average, and then this is net attendance ratio per 100% secondary stage age 14 to 15 years 2009 to 10, that we can see that how the Maharashtra is having the good and fair progressive record. So in this way, in terms of per capita income, Maharashtra is having more prosperity than the Bihar. Now we will continue. What does this table show? The first column of the table shows that in Kerala, out of 1,000 children born, 12 died before completing 1 year of age. But in Maharashtra, the proportion of children dying within 1 year of birth was 24, which is just double. On the other hand, the per capita income of Maharashtra is more than that of Kerala, as shown in table 1.3. Just think of how dear you are to your parents and think of how everyone is happy when a child is born. Now, try to think of parents whose children die before they even celebrate their first birthday. How painful it must be these parents. Next, note the year to which this data pertains. It is 2012. So, we are not talking of old times. It is more than 65 years after independence, when our metro cities are full of high-rise building and shopping malls. The problem does not end with the infant mortality rate. The last column of table 1.4 shows around two-thirds of children aged 14 to 15 in Bihar are not attending school beyond class 8. This means that if you went to school in Bihar, more than two-thirds of your elementary class would be missing. Those good friends have been in school are not there. If this had happened to you, you would not be able to read what you are reading now. So, now public facility. How is it that the average person in Maharashtra has more income than the average person in Kerala, but lags behind in these crucial areas? The reason is money in your pocket cannot buy all the goods and services that you may need to live well. So, income by itself is not a completely adequate indicator of material goods and services that citizens are able to use. For example, normally your money cannot buy you pollution free environment or ensure that you get unadulterated medicines unless you can afford to shift to a community that already has all these things. Money may also not be able to protect you from infectious diseases unless the whole of your community takes preventive steps. So, actually, for many of the important things in life, the best way, also the cheapest way, is it to provide these goods and services collectively. Just think, will it be cheaper to have collective security for the whole locality or for each house to have its own security man? What if no one other than you in village or locality is interested in studying? Okay, would you be able to study? Not unless your parents could afford to send you to some private school elsewhere. So, you are actually able to study because many other children also study, and because many people believe that the government should open school and provide other facility so that all children have a chance to study. Even now, in many areas, children, particularly girls, are not able to achieve secondary level schooling because government society has not provided adequate facilities. Kerala has a low infant mortality rate because it has adequate provision of basic health and educational facility. Similarly, in some states, the public distribution system PDS functions well. Health and nutritional status of people of such states is certainly likely to be better. Now, isn't it surprising that a small country in our neighborhood, Sri Lanka, is much ahead of India in every respect, and a big country like ours has such a low rank in the world? Table 1.6 also shows that though Nepal has less than half the per capita income of India, yet it is not far behind India in life expectancy and literacy level. Many improvements have been suggested in calculating HDI, and many new components have been added to the human development report, but by prefixing human to development, it has made it very clear that what is important in development is what is happening to the citizen of a country. It is people, their health, their well-being that is most important. Do you think there are certain other aspects that should be considered in measuring human development? Now, sustainability of development. That suppose for the present that a particular country is quite developed, we would certainly like this level of development to go up further or at least be maintained for future generation. This is obviously desirable. However, since the second half of the 20th century, a number of scientists have been warning that the present type and levels of development are not sustainable. As we have discussed, the sustainable development, where we can use the resource and we can preserve the resource for the future generation also. So, as nowadays everybody is using in a excess manner all type of resources without thinking to preserve them the future generation. So, in future, it has been instructed by the scientists, world scientists, that our future generation will be in great threat. Now, we have not inherited the world from our forefather. We have borrowed it from our children. Okay, now groundwater is an example of renewable resources. These resources are replenished by nature, as in the case of crops and plants. However, even these resources may be overused. For example, in the case of groundwater, if we use more than what is being replenished by the rain, then we would be overusing this resource. Non renewable resources are those which will get exhausted after years of use. We have a fixed stock on earth which cannot be replenished. We do discover new resources that we did not know of earlier. New resources in this way add to the stock. However, over time, even this will get exhausted. For example, crude oil that we extract from the earth is a non renewable resource. And however, we may find a source of oil that we did not know of earlier. Exploration are being undertaken all the time. But still, we have to remember one thing, that we have to use the resources in a sustainable manner so that we can keep them for the future generation also. Now, consequences of environmental degradation do not respect natural or state boundary. This issue is no longer region or nation specific. Our future is linked together. Sustainability of development is comparatively a new area of knowledge in which scientists, economists, philosophers, and other social scientists are working together. In general, the question of development or progress is perennial at all times. As a memory member of society and as individual, we need to ask where we want to go, what we wish to become, and what our goals are. So the debate on development continues. So this is all about, it is a very small chapter of economics development, and you have to read it, and then you have to do your homework whatever is given to you. Take care. Goodbye.